Have you ever seen someone so shy, so gentle, that they almost disappear in the background of life, and yet, when darkness tries to crush them, their quiet strength sparks a fire that nobody can ignore? This is the story of a girl named Emily, a shy and reserved soul who never asked for much, only to be left alone in peace, but life had different plans. And it all began on a day when bullies crossed a line so cruel, so unforgivable, that her silence could no longer protect her. Emily sat at the farthest corner of her classroom, her head always bowed as though she was trying to become invisible. She loved books more than conversations, sketching more than laughter, and silence more than noise. For most of her classmates, she was a ghost. People barely noticed her presence unless someone needed an easy target for mockery. She wasn't ugly, far from it. Emily had delicate features, large thoughtful eyes that held galaxies of dreams, and a soft smile that could warm anyone's heart if she ever allowed it to surface. But her quietness was mistaken for weakness, her kindness for cowardice, and her refusal to fit into the crowd made her a magnet for those who thrived on cruelty. Among them was Jason, the school's self-proclaimed prince, handsome, popular, arrogant, and utterly merciless to anyone who dared reject him. Alongside him was his gang, 3 boys and 2 girls, always laughing at someone's expense, always needing to remind everyone of their dominance. Emily had caught Jason's attention not because she tried to, but because she refused to. In a world where every girl seemed eager for his attention, Emily's silence was an insult he could not tolerate. And so, his obsession began. For weeks, Jason tried the usual tricks, flirting in the hallways, cornering her at her locker, making loud jokes in class that forced her to look up. But Emily, too shy to respond, always lowered her gaze and walked away. For her, avoidance was survival. She never imagined that saying nothing would provoke something far worse. One rainy afternoon, after classes ended, Emily walked through the empty corridor toward the library, her books clutched against her chest. Jason and his gang followed quietly behind, waiting for the moment when no teacher's eyes could catch them. "Hey, shy girl," Jason called out, his voice echoing. Emily froze. Her heart raced, her legs urged her to run, but she forced herself to remain calm. I need to go," she whispered, barely audible, before quickening her steps. Jason smirked, signaling his friends to block the hallway ahead. Emily's path was cut off. She turned, only to find Jason leaning against the wall, arms crossed, a predatory smile on his face. "Why do you always run, Emily? I'm giving you a chance girls dream about. I asked you out, nicely. You could at least answer me." Her voice trembled. I don't want to date you." The words, though soft, carried a strength that shocked even Emily. Jason's smile vanished. His friends exchanged glances. Silence filled the air, thick and dangerous. Then he laughed, a laugh that wasn't amusement but mockery. "You don't want to date me. Do you know who I am? Do you know how many girls would kill to be in your position?" Emily hugged her books tighter, wishing she could vanish into the walls. "Please, just let me go." But Jason was not one to accept rejection. His pride was wounded, his ego bruised, and that was more dangerous than anything else. He stepped closer, his presence suffocating. "If you won't say yes, then maybe we should teach you what happens when you say no." And before Emily could react, one of the girls in the group grabbed her arm, yanking her books to the ground. Emily struggled, her pleas lost in their cruel laughter. Then it happened, the moment that would change everything. With a swift, merciless tug, one of them grabbed her shirt and ripped it down the middle, the sound of tearing fabric echoing like thunder in her ears. Emily gasped, her face burning with shame, tears blinding her vision. She tried to cover herself, clutching the torn pieces of her shirt, but their laughter roared louder, merciless and cruel. To them, it was entertainment. To Emily, it was devastation. She broke free, running with all the strength in her trembling body, tears streaming down her face, humiliation crushing her spirit. She didn't stop until she locked herself in the girls' bathroom, collapsing to the floor, sobbing into her knees. She hated herself in that moment, not because of who she was, but because she felt powerless to fight back. She replayed the ripping sound in her mind again and again, each time shattering her more. That night, Emily sat in her small room, staring at the mirror. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her hands trembling as she traced the torn fabric of her shirt. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why can't they just leave me alone? But deep down, beneath the layers of fear, a spark flickered. Something in her heart whispered that enough was enough. She had lived in silence for too long. She had let others define her worth for too long. This wasn't about Jason anymore. This was about reclaiming her dignity, her voice, her life. The next day at school, Emily wore a plain sweater, her hair tied back, her face calm. To anyone else, she looked the same. But inside, she was no longer the same girl. She walked into class and saw Jason smirking at her, already preparing another cruel remark. But when their eyes met, Jason faltered. For the first time, Emily's eyes didn't dart away. They held his gaze, steady, unshaken, unafraid. And though Jason laughed it off in front of his friends, something in him stirred. He could feel it. This wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. Because Emily, the shy girl they thought was weak, had found something stronger than fear. And that strength was about to change everything. The next morning felt different, though nothing in the world had changed except Emily herself. The school hallways still echoed with chatter, lockers slammed, footsteps hurried across tiles, and yet Emily felt as though she was walking through a battlefield, calm at its center. The night before, she had made a choice, one that scared her as much as it empowered her. She would no longer be silent. She knew that silence had been her shield, her way of surviving all these years, but after what Jason and his gang had done, silence had become a cage. And Emily had finally found the strength to break it. The moment she entered class, whispers floated around her. Everyone had heard fragments of the incident, rumors twisted into gossip, half-truths layered with lies. Some said she ran away crying because Jason had rejected her, others claimed she had begged him and he pushed her aside. The cruel part of rumors was never the truth itself but the way people enjoyed believing the worst. Jason sat at the back, laughing with his friends, confident in his untouchable image. When Emily walked past, one of the girls in his group sneered, "Careful, don't let your shirt rip again." Laughter erupted. For a brief second, Emily's chest tightened, shame threatening to pull her back into silence. But she inhaled slowly, lifted her chin, and kept walking. She didn't hide her face. She didn't run. That small act of defiance was the beginning of her war. After class, Emily did something nobody expected. She walked into the principal's office. Her hands trembled as she knocked, her heart thundering, but she forced herself forward. Principal Harris, a stern woman in her 50s, looked up in surprise. Emily had never been in trouble, never once sought attention. "Emily, is something wrong?" the principal asked. Emily swallowed hard. Her voice shook at first, but the words came anyway. "I need to report something. Jason and his friends, they attacked me. They ripped my shirt." For a moment, silence filled the office. Principal Harris' expression hardened, shock giving way to anger. "Tell me everything." And Emily did. Every detail, every cruel laugh, every humiliating moment. The words poured out like water breaking through a dam, and for the first time in her life, Emily felt the weight of her silence lifting. Principal Harris wasted no time. Jason and his gang were summoned. At first, they